After my father was caught lying to me about his illness, he changed tactics and instead decided to confide in me over the phone. He began to share every little secret he had been hiding for years, along with all the negative feelings he harbored towards my mother. In a way, I became his confidant and therapist, and navigating this new role was highly challenging for me. In Tromsø, life was thriving for me. I had successfully found a harmonious balance between my professional commitments and my spiritual devotion to Jesus. Regularly attending the Philadelphia Tromsø church allowed me to establish new friendships and integrate into a small men's Bible study group. Unfortunately, even though my brother and I lived in the same city, he still showed no interest in connecting with me. His jealousy always got in the way despite our occasional conversations, preventing us from building a meaningful relationship. Coping with this situation was incredibly challenging, as I had always hoped for a close bond with my brother. Not long after, my father received a devastating diagnosis of prostate cancer. Initially, I was confused, questioning the validity of the news, but my mother soon confirmed he was telling the truth this time. They were still residing in Rorvik and approached me with a request to stay in Tromsø while my father underwent radiation treatment at the local hospital. Despite my complex feelings towards them, I couldn't deny the care and concern I still held for my parents. Considering the circumstances, I realized the importance of seeking treatment in Tromsø, as the chances of recovery seemed more promising than at the nearest hospital in Namsos, about a 2-hour drive from Rorvik. Despite my reservations, I agreed to let them stay. However, my mother's words, "If he gets difficult to handle while we are there, just leave, take a walk outside, and don't worry about me. I am used to handling him," left me uncertain about the future. After they arrived in Tromsø and settled into my apartment, events took a troubling turn. Due to my father's illness, I was responsible for driving them around town and to various appointments. On several occasions, I received comments that he was envious of the praise I received from my mother for my driving, despite her never explicitly stating that I drove better than him. Furthermore, I was informed multiple times that he resented my presence in my apartment, feeling like I was diverting my mother's attention from him. He entrusted me with his innermost secrets and expressed his deep-seated resentment toward my mother. He repeatedly blamed me for causing my brother to lose our mother's affection when I was born. I tried to balance my work commitments with my spiritual and social life by participating in a small men's group at Philadelphia. However, I encountered significant conflict within my family. My father accused me of being self-centered for leaving him and my mother alone at home while I attended the men's group. Tensions further escalated as my devout Catholic father clashed with my Pentecostal mother over attending Philadelphia Tromsø. Their disagreement reached a point where my father went so far as to threaten that he would suffer a heart attack and die if my mother and I attended the church. Despite his injunction, my mother and I chose to go to Philadelphia, only to discover upon our return that my father had spent the afternoon shopping and dining in the city center. Moreover, my father showed disdain towards our beliefs in the power of prayer and accused both my mother and me of being selfish for not displaying enough emotion when he expressed his distress. Faced with this turmoil, I felt compelled to cease attending Philadelphia to salvage my parents' marriage and restore peace at home. As I sat in the car with my mother, waiting for my biological father to finish his doctor's appointment, an unexpected and heart-wrenching moment unfolded. Out of nowhere, my mother burst into tears, confessing, "He is so mean to me, I am going to leave him." All along, I had known about their struggles, but I had never fathomed the severity of the situation. I understood that my mother had endured a lot in her marriage, and even her own parents had pleaded with her to leave him back in 1981, but she had staunchly refused. The fact that she was now contemplating leaving after so many years of enduring meant that the mistreatment had escalated. Before I could respond, my biological father returned to the car, and my mother chose to remain silent about it from then on. She stayed with him until his passing in 2017. After the doctors confirmed that my father was in remission, they sent him back home to Rorvik. I was so relieved to hear the news, but I found myself struggling to regain the life I had before they came to Tromsø. My social life seemed to have disappeared, and I felt emotionally drained from the efforts I had put into trying to help save my parents' marriage. As a result, I found it difficult to summon the energy to return to my usual activities in Philadelphia, Tromsø. I was feeling completely drained and burnt out, so I made the difficult decision to stop attending the meetings at Philadelphia, Tromsø and ultimately discontinued my involvement with the men's group. Instead, I threw myself into my work at ISS, taking on arduous night shifts and frequently working up to 12 hours a day. During this time, I couldn't help but notice a profound shift in my parents' marriage after they relocated to Rorvik. Their arguments became more frequent and intense, even on the occasions when they called me on the phone. Since I was a young child, my family had a tradition of going on summer vacations together. As I grew older and left home, my father made it clear that continuing this tradition was non-negotiable. He expressed that if I didn't drive them around during these vacations, they wouldn't be able to enjoy a proper summer break. Despite my desire to pursue my own summer activities, my father had a way of making me feel extremely guilty if I even considered not being their chauffeur. As a result, I found myself enduring multiple vacations as their reluctant private driver. Throughout these trips, I constantly felt belittled by my father, who seemed to be both envious of my driving ability and resentful of the attention I received, all while simultaneously expecting me to fulfill this role. In the summer of 2009, I embarked on what would become the most arduous vacation of my life. Throughout the trip, my parents engaged in a ceaseless cycle of quarrels, publicly humiliating each other and causing scenes at rest stops. The intensity of their disputes drew the attention of onlookers, heightening the overall discomfort. As tensions reached a breaking point, I felt compelled to issue an ultimatum, threatening to venture home alone if they couldn't maintain peace for the remainder of the journey. Despite my resolve, their relentless behavior left me feeling overwhelmed and powerless. Over the next few weeks and months, I found myself fully engrossed in my work, but an undeniable calling to serve as a pastor or preacher began to tug at my heart. Although I wasn't certain whether it was one or both roles that I was being called to, I knew that pursuing this path would require me to acquire the proper education. Taking on the responsibilities of a pastor and preacher meant that I needed to be well prepared. During this time, there was a significant change in the management at ISS. The previous management had a deep understanding of what it took to be a professional cleaner, having climbed the ranks themselves. However, with the arrival of the new management, who had no prior experience as professional cleaners, it became evident that they underestimated the challenges that came with the job. While I had always taken great pride in working at ISS and being part of the team, the change of management made it clear that difficulties lay ahead. Consequently, I made the difficult decision to resign from my position and seek employment as a regular cleaner at a different company. Returning to my role as a regular cleaner with fixed working hours was a welcome change from being a team leader. Drawing on all the skills and knowledge gained from my time at ISS, I strived to surpass expectations. When I encounter previous clients from my former company, they still express that they have not experienced a level of cleanliness that matches what I provided during my tenure. After working at the new company for just 6 months, I received acceptance as a student at Ansgar University College for a Bachelor of Theology course. Ansgar University College is situated in Kristiansand in the south of Norway. I then packed up my belongings and made the move from Tromsø in the north to Kristiansand in the south. The way my biological parents guilt-tripped me into buying my apartment in Tromsø for a nickel and a dime, how Jesus liberated me from feeling responsible for them, and the journey of transitioning from being a Pentecostal to a Messianic Pentecostal is a fascinating story that I hope to share in a future blog post.